Hey guys, welcome back to another Whispered Facts episode. I hope you're all doing well, keeping warm, and ready for another relaxing facts video. Today's video topic is winter. Now, some of us love winter, some of us hate it. Personally, I'm somewhere in the middle. But we will get into all of that during the video. Just before we get started, I'd like to remind you guys to like the video if you enjoy the content. Consider subscribing if you're new around here, and I'll bring you plenty more fact videos like this one in the very near future. So with all that being said, it's time to lay back, relax, and let yourself drift away as I whisper facts about winter. Winter is the coldest season of the year in polar and temperate zones. It occurs after autumn and before spring in each year. Winter is caused by the axis of the Earth in that hemisphere being oriented away from the sun. Different cultures define different dates as the start of winter, and some use a definition based on weather. In many regions, winter is associated with snow and freezing temperatures. When it is winter in the northern hemisphere, it is summer in the southern hemisphere, and vice versa. This fact makes me think of Australia and places like that in the southern hemisphere, and how their seasons are the reverse to where I am here in the northern hemisphere. I think if you were to go and live there, and you lived in the northern hemisphere originally, it would take time to adapt to the backwards seasons. I can't imagine having Christmas in the heat. It would just feel so completely wrong, but if you're used to it, then I guess it would feel natural. Opening your presents, you would have some turkey dinner with gravy. Maybe you relax for a while you digest it, and then go and have a dip in the pool. No, I think I prefer the northern hemisphere way. I don't mind the cold weather at Christmas because I expect it to be cold. It's what we're used to, and it's what Christmas is about, really. But once Christmas is over and we reach January, I just want spring and summer to follow. I would have to say my least favourite time of year, weather-wise, would be the cold period between January and March. I almost count the days until the clocks go forward at the end of March, and some brighter days and better weather comes along. Winter cold kills more than twice as many Americans as the summer heat does. A New Zealand insect called the weta, or perhaps that's weta, freezes completely solid when temperatures drop during the winter. However, when temperatures warm back up, the insect unfreezes, thaws, and resumes its activities. Wow, yeah, that would be a pretty handy skill to have. It makes me think about the horror movie The Thing, if you've ever seen that movie, with the alien species that assimilates people. It absorbs them and essentially mimics that person, so they look and act exactly like the person. One of the skills The Thing possesses guesses is that it's able to freeze in the snow and thaw once it heats up. The movie itself is set in the Arctic or Antarctic, I'm not sure which it is, but it's one of the North Poles or South Poles. And just like the insect in question in this fact, the Ouida. So I really love that movie. It's well worth checking out if you're into horror movies and you haven't seen it. There are a number of versions, but the one I'm referring to is the 1982 version with Kurt Russell. The onset of menopause is significantly higher in winter than in spring or autumn, with a smaller peak in summer. And that's probably the most random fact we'll hear today. The southern hemisphere typically has milder winters than the northern hemisphere. This is because the southern hemisphere has less land and a more maritime climate. While it seems counterintuitive, Earth is actually closest to the sun in December, even though winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. I believe this occurs on the 21st of December each year, give or take a day. That is when the days are at their shortest, I think, all around the northern hemisphere. It gets dark at different times, of course, but here in the UK, where I am, it probably gets dark at that time around 3 p.m. roughly every day. I'm not exactly sure, but it's pretty early in the day. And then it's fully dark by probably 3:30, 3:45 in the afternoon at that time of year. So we get very dark days towards the end of November and throughout December. According to the Guinness World Records, on January the 28th, 1887, a snowflake 15 inches wide and 8 inches thick fell in Fort Keogh, Montana, making it the largest snowflake ever observed. I'm surprised that it's never been broken, the record. 1887 wasn't yesterday, but I guess the planet is heating up, so perhaps that's one reason why the record has never been broken, or perhaps people just haven't been able to observe a bigger snowflake, because you can't possibly observe every snowflake that falls, so maybe that's one of the reasons why it's never been broken. The average snowflake falls at about 3 miles per hour. Even today, the Quakitul Indians, I hope I pronounced that right, the Quakitul Indians of British Columbia change their names and take on the names of their ancestors at the beginning of winter. They believe this will protect them from the spirits of the dead who return at this time of year. 1 inch of snow will produce just less than 1/10 of an inch of water when melted. 10 inches of snow will melt down to only 1 inch of water. The first Winter Olympics were held in Chamonix, France in 1924. No country in the southern hemisphere has hosted or even been an applicant to host the Winter Olympics. Yeah, and again, it took as well. Hibernation is a state of reduced metabolic activity during the winter. Some animals sleep during winter and only come out when the warm weather returns. For example, gophers, frogs, snakes, and bats. I think this is a fact most people know. I knew that snakes hibernated, but wasn't aware of gophers, frogs, or bats. But I'm sure there's an extensive list of animals who hibernate in winter. Sadly, us humans have to soldier on through the cold winter months, though. I think it would be nice if we could just curl up somewhere, keep warm, and re-emerge in summertime. Since Romans used daylight and darkness to determine the time, an hour was 45 minutes in the winter and 75 minutes in the summer. Bismarck, North Dakota, holds the record for the most snow angels at one time. On February the 17th, 2007, several schools joined forces to create 8,962 snow angels. Oh wow, that's a cool fact. No pun intended. I remember making snow angels as a kid. I think most of us have at one point or another. And if you aren't aware what one is, basically, you lay on your back in the snow and you move your legs up and down to brush the snow away from the top surface. And when you stand up, it looks like an angel in the snow. It's really simple, but it looks really cool. Known as the storm of the century, a blizzard and a cyclone swept destruction from Cuba to Canada on March the 12th, 1993, a week before spring. The storm was responsible for 310 deaths and $6.6 billion in damage, and it shut down the southern part of the US for 3 days. Wow, that sounds terrible. I don't actually recall hearing about this storm, but I was very young at the time, and it's the sort of news that once it passes you won't hear a lot about again, because we do get a lot of storms around the world, but this one sounds particularly bad. Plus they get a lot of winter storms in the US and the Canadian region as well. I know Canada gets unbelievably cold in winter. I love those clips on YouTube of when somebody throws boiling water into the air in freezing temperatures and it literally turns to steam in the air as the air temperature is so cold. It's well worth looking up if you've never seen it before. Meteorologists often define winter as the 3 calendar months with the lowest average temperatures. For the Northern Hemisphere, this is December, January, and February. For the Southern Hemisphere, it is June, July, and August. I actually only really count 2 seasons of the year, which I know is kind of funny, but it's summer and winter. I count summer as being from April to September, and then winter from October to March, which I know is a bit odd, I guess, but we all have our own sort of funny ways of doing things, and that's one of mine. The lowest let's just think about just how cold that is for a second. Minus 89 degrees Celsius. The average fridge freezer temperature I should say, is around minus 18 degrees I think. So minus 89 is crazy cold. I can't even imagine what that would be like to be in. Many insects prepare for winter by creating their own antifreeze. During the fall, insects produce more glycerol, which gives their body a supercooling ability by allowing bodily fluids to drop below freezing without causing ice damage. Glycerol also lowers the freezing point, which makes insects more cold tolerant and protects their tissue and cells from ice damage. Their glycerol levels drop again during the spring. While scientists still debate the significance of Stonehenge, the ancient stone structure is aligned to the sunset on the winter solstice. The city of Umeå in Sweden uses light therapy in bus stops to combat depression during winter when 19 hours of the day are darkness. The definition of a blizzard is when visibility is reduced to a quarter of a mile and the winds are 35 miles per hour or more. The storm also must last at least 3 hours. If any of these specific conditions are not met, then it is a snowstorm instead. Winters in Russia are so harsh that they are a natural defense during war. For example, rather than entering into peace negotiations with Napoleon Bonaparte, Tsar Alexander I decided to let Russia's cold weather deal with the French invaders instead. Yeah, that's a pretty decent defense mechanism, you would have to say. Let's just let the cold kill the enemy instead and save us the job of having to do it. Yeah, Russia is another place besides Canada that comes to mind when I think about where has the harshest winters. It's always Canada that I think of first, and Russia second, I guess, that pop into my head. And speaking of Russia, in 1974, the temperature hit minus 71 degrees Celsius, or minus 96 degrees Fahrenheit, in Siberia during winter, making Russia the coldest country in the world. Canada, Mongolia, Finland, and Iceland round out the top 5. I didn't actually think Iceland was that cold, despite its name. I know that Greenland, which is a huge icy landmass that belongs to Denmark, is extremely cold, but I thought it was colder than Iceland, actually. It's quite an interesting top 5 coldest countries, though. As expected, Russia and Canada are 1 and 2 on the list. I wasn't too aware about Mongolia, but I know Finland is extremely cold in winter as well. That's where Santa lives, I believe, up in Lapland, which I think is in Finland. To survive winters, many animals have developed various survival techniques such as migrating, hibernating, storing food, changing colors, or growing thicker fur. The only recorded instance of a cavalry capturing an enemy's ships occurred in the unusually cold winter of 1795, when most of the waterways in northern Europe froze over, and the French cavalry was able to charge out onto a frozen port to capture the Dutch fleet stranded there. Couples are more than twice as likely to think about splitting up between the year-end holidays and Valentine's Day. The two major reasons are that the holidays are stressful and energy levels are lower during cold weather, and people tend to be moodier. I guess that makes sense if you think about it. I think people are more moody in winter in general just because of the weather. I'm pretty sure if there was a survey done of what time of year people preferred in the UK and probably North America and places like that as well, summer would win quite comfortably. It all depends on your climate, of course, but I would imagine the majority of people in the UK would say that they prefer summer to winter. The volcanic eruption of Indonesia's Mount Tambora in April 1815 created a year without summer in the northern hemisphere. Industry experts note that a colder than usual winter probably would not reduce the number of insects for the following spring and summer. What would have more of an impact on their numbers would be an out-of-season cold snap, because insects have not yet adapted to environmental change. Winter is a major character in several movies, including The Thing, Whiteout, The Day After Tomorrow, The Colony, Alive, Wind Chill, Frozen, and The Grey. Yeah, some very good movies there that I've seen and some that I haven't. The Thing, which I actually mentioned earlier in the video, The Day After Tomorrow, is really good. I like that one a lot. That's all about climate change and a superstorm that hits Earth. The Colony, I'm not aware of that movie as such. I'll have to look that one up. Along with Wind Chill, I've never heard of that one either. Alive is one of my favourite movies, and it's about a plane crash in the Andes Mountains, high up in the snow, and it's about people fighting to stay alive in the extreme cold, facing starvation. There's also an avalanche as well. It's a really great movie, and what makes it even better is that it's actually based on a true story, so feel free to look that up if you're interested. It's called The Miracle of the Andes. I've also seen The Grey with Liam Neeson. It's a very enjoyable movie, and let's see, Frozen. Yeah, that's not my kind of thing, but my nieces used to love it when they were a bit younger. Several discoveries happened in a winter solstice. The Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth on December the 21st, 1620. Pierre and Marie Curie discovered radium on December the 20th. use air conditioning even in the winter to keep it comfortable. I know that Minnesota, which is where the Mall of America is, I believe, it gets really cold in winter as well. I've seen a number of clips of that mall and it is absolutely huge. It's featured in some movies and it has a roller coaster going through it, I believe. I'm not entirely sure if it still has that, but it did the last time I saw it in a video. But anyway, to need to use aircon even in the winter, the footfall in that mall must be unbelievable. Sunsets are typically prettier in the winter. Cold, non-humid air is clearer than warm summer air, which allows the colours of the sun to shine through more clearly. I've actually always thought that. I really do love a crisp, sunny day in winter. Typically they're colder and cloudier days, of course, because the cloud acts as a sort of blanket, but they're just really nice, especially to go out for a walk and take in the fresh air, especially if it's a calm day as well. The coldest temperature ever recorded during a UK winter was minus 27.2 degrees Celsius, which has been recorded 3 times. Not surprisingly, the locations these temperatures were recorded were in Scotland. Yeah, Scotland does experience the coldest weather of anywhere in the UK. It's even colder than where I am. I sometimes see the weather and it might be, say, 20 degrees in Northern Ireland, mid to high 20s in England, and only mid-teens or lower even over in Scotland. Places like Aberdeen over on the far east coast. I wouldn't like it very much there. I don't think. I need at least a little bit of warmth in my life. The word winter comes from the Germanic winter, which in turn is derived from the word wed, meaning wet or water, and so signifies a wet season. In Anglo-Saxon cultures, years were counted by the winters, so a person could be said to be 2 winters old. The first day of winter was also of symbolic importance, named Viertradag, and falling comparatively early in the year between the 10th and 16th of October. Snow falls hard in various locations during the winter, but Japan seems to be one of the worst hit countries. In fact, Aomori is perhaps the snowiest city in the world at winter time, with around 36 feet of snowy downfall likely to hit the area during the cold snap. The reason traditional Asian roofs curve out at the corners is to allow more light to enter the windows in winter and give more shade in summer. Yeah, it's interesting that you get different styles of roof depending on the country. Some countries have flat roofs that get very little rain. Here in the UK we have the traditional triangular ship roofs for rainwater to run off down into the drains, because of course we get a lot of rain in the UK all throughout the year, in fact. The Arctic Circle descends is similar to that. That would be really tough to live in, I think, to not see daylight for weeks. 30 Days of Night comes to mind, the Josh Hartnett movie when the vampires descend on a town in Alaska, I think it is. And the place, I think it's a fictional town, but it might be Barrow. But I know Barrow is actually a real town in Alaska, but I think it is the town of Barrow. And it falls dark for 30 days every winter, or around that. I haven't actually seen that movie in quite a while, but it's really good. Well guys, that is just about it for this Whispered Facts episode on winter. But if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this, and also feel free to comment down below with topic suggestions for future videos. But thank you for joining me. Until next time, rest easy, sleep